Good morning, everybody. Today we're talking to the lovely Nadia Brydon, who I had the good fortune to meet about a year ago at a show. We were unsure which show it was, but anyway, it was in London.
I think it was that.
And Nadia is a nutritionist, naturopath, is it? Naturopath?
Yes,
But you're everything, it seems to me. I mean, I was nonplussed when I heard of all the things you're doing. So tell us about yourself, Nadia. Where did you start? How did you start on your journey?
How did I start? Gosh, well, I started by training in Western Herbal Medicine, and I found it very interesting and really loved it, but I thought there's something missing. So I then trained, I studied with Dr. Vasant in Ayurvedic Medicine, and I thought, yeah, it's great, but there's still something missing. And then I studied acupuncture, and I thought, wow, fantastic, but still something missing. And I went on like this. I studied Chinese herbal medicine. I thought, fabulous, but still something missing, and I can't put my finger on it. And I studied nutrition, and I studied naturopathy, and I studied masses of things. And I'd been a practitioner for about 10 years, and I still felt there was something missing, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And yet I had all these qualifications and anyway. So then one day I was invited to go and lecture in Spain on a weekend at a raw food retreat, and I thought, oh dear, Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine says you mustn't eat raw food. So I thought, and I hadn't been eating raw food for about 10 or 15 years because of the teachings that you get, and I thought, oh well, never mind, I'll get through the weekend, no worries. So I went out to Spain, and I was rather pleased to be invited because I was very, very busy as a practitioner. I was teaching herbal medicine at a college, and I had my clinic down in Devon, and I was working in London at Breast Cancer Haven as senior therapist. And I went over really exhausted because I was really burnt out with all this travelling and with all this teaching and lots of patients. And I went to Spain, and within 24 hours I felt honestly rejuvenated and reborn, and I felt as if somebody had taken a mains lead and plugged me into the mains, and I went in that moment I went, this is what I have been looking for really for 15 years. And what this was actually, if you cook food too much, you cook out a lot of the micronutrients.
I'm sure that's true.
And I think it's, we're well aware of the fact that the more you cook something, the more you reduce some of the micronutrients. And when I'm talking about micronutrients, I'm talking about vitamins and minerals and enzymes and amino acids. It obviously cooking doesn't kill them off completely, but you are reducing them. And so when you're eating raw vegetables, you're actually eating them in their natural state, and you're eating them without much loss of vitamins and minerals.
It's not very good to do. I mean, chewing on a cabbage leaf is not very easy. So
No.
have you got an easy way of doing that?
Yes, well, because so what I then thought, as you say, I thought, well, it's very difficult for people to sort of chew on. I mean, for instance, children don't like sort of really chewing on. Well, perhaps probably children's teeth are very good, but particularly old people. How do old people get their nutrition from raw vegetables? Because old people often don't have very good teeth. So I started to develop blending vegetables blending recipes in a blender and making them really, really delicious. And so I started creating lots of different recipes. And as a nutritionist, I used to, in my sort of, as I now call my past life, I used to have a patient, and I would say, now let's look at your diet and see what you're eating. And they'd show me what they were eating. They might be having a fairly healthy diet, but they might be having their coffee and their alcohol or their red meat, and I would say, try and cut out your coffee or cut down your coffee, or your alcohol may not be very healthy for you at the moment, with what your condition is. And I would find that people would either come back a couple of weeks later and feel terribly guilty. Oh, I couldn't stop my coffee, I really like my coffee, or I really like my chocolate. And I'd feel as a failure as a practitioner, to be perfectly honest. And they would feel a failure. So we all felt failures because we couldn't adhere to this regime of what healthy eating was. And I realised when I was in Spain that it's not about what you cut out of your diet, but it's about what you put into your diet. So now as a practitioner, I tell people how to put in raw greens as smoothies, and I say don't worry about the rest of your diet, that's fine, but you do need the raw vegetables, but particularly greens. That's what is important.
Great. So you started putting your greens. Are there special kinds of greens? Can it be any greens?
Any greens you like.
Any greens you like. Into the liquidizer. And to make them taste nice, what did you do? Put an apple in or something?
Well, you can put an apple in. I mean, everybody's different. Some people, quite happy to do a vegetable smoothie. But I tell you what's quite interesting is that all my training has been extremely useful in my understanding of what I'm now trying to teach people to do, because every food has a taste. You've got the bitter, the sweet, the astringent, the salty, the sour. And I've missed one out there. Bitter, sweet, astringent, salty, sour, pungent. So it's spicy. So you've got, so it depends on which tradition you're looking at. And you've got 5 tastes or 6 tastes. And fruit is obviously the sweet taste. And the interesting thing is people don't understand that anything with chlorophyll, any chlorophyll greens...
Don't tap the table.
Oh, sorry. So sorry, I won't touch the table.
Carry on.
Yes. People don't understand that that anything with chlorophyll, which is the green colouring in vegetables, is actually the bitter and astringent taste.
Right.
So if you put the bitter and astringent taste in your diet as green vegetables, you're actually reducing your desire for the sweet taste. So what's really fascinating is now I get a patient, they'll come to me and they'll say, oh, I'm addicted to chocolate, or I'm a sugar addict and I love my cakes and my biscuits. And I say, don't worry, it's fine, but let's put in a green smoothie every day into your diet, and here is a recipe, and I'll tell you the recipes I suggest in a minute. And have one of these every day, but have it before you have your breakfast. And initially people think, oh, can I eat, green vegetables before I have my breakfast? But the thing is, when you do that, you're actually sort of setting the program for the day, because it cancels out the desire for the sweet taste. So you then naturally do not have the same desire for sugar and carbohydrates. And I think what's happening nowadays is people are really worried about the amount of carbohydrates intake because of obviously obesity and things like that. And it's like, how does one actually stop that addiction? And most people try and do it out of willpower, and they're miserable.
Yes.
And so the way that I do it, I say, well, don't worry about it. Just continue with your carbohydrates and your sugar and your chocolate and whatever. Here's my recipe, which has got green vegetables in it, and you blend it up, and you have half a glass before breakfast and half a glass before lunch, or you have another glass midday. Mid-morning, and I'll see you in 2 weeks, and just continue with your normal diet, and let's just see what happens, in 2 weeks, how things have changed, how your symptoms have changed, how you feel in yourself, how your energy is, if your sleep is any better, if any symptoms have reduced, by just adding in 3 portions of raw green vegetables, of which 1.5 portions are dark leafy greens, and that's the key.
Right. So what you've actually done, Nadia, is you've listened to your patients.
Yeah.
And they have told you this stuff.
I've listened to myself as well.
As yourself.
Yeah.
But this is about like Galen, who thought that you have to listen to your patients in order to diagnose what happens.
Yes.
And I was talking earlier on to Dr. Brian McDonough, and that is on YouTube as well. You can listen to that again. And he was talking about Hippocrates and how you as well, and how you must listen to your patient in order to be able to diagnose them. And often, if you've got sufficient time to listen to them, they will diagnose their problem. They know what they're doing wrong. And your idea is amazing. You found that golden key to say to them, hang on, just carry on what you're doing, but add this in. I think that's really amazing.
I mean, you see, what's important is not focusing on what's wrong with somebody. It's focusing on what's right.
Yes.
So, because whatever you focus on will grow. So if you focus on, the guilt of having sugar, or the fact that, it's bad to have sugar, or let's not worry about it, or bad to have alcohol, or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you put in the greens into the diet, which is the good bit, that that aspect will grow. So the more that we focus on the good, if you like, the bad will just fall away. So what actually is so interesting is people come back to me in 2 weeks and they say, do you know what? It's extraordinary. And I often have never even said anything about their chocolate addiction or whatever. And they've said, I absolutely no longer desire chocolate. Or I haven't drunk alcohol for 2 weeks, can't understand it. And I sort of secretly smile and think, well, that's great. And then I explain to them, that it does cancel out the bitter and the astringent taste of the greens, cancels out the sweet taste. But you see, would you like my recipe?
Well, can you put one of my spoonfuls of linseed oil in your green smoothie?
Oh, but definitely. Right. In fact, I had a green smoothie this morning. And I put your linseed oil in it, and it was delicious. So shall I tell you what is in my green
Would you like
smoothie?
to do that? Are you happy to divulge that to our millions of listeners?
Absolutely. I mean, I have to say, I do run classes at Breast Cancer Haven in Fulham Broadway once
Yes, I'd
a
like you
month.
to tell us a bit more about that in a minute, maybe.
And they're just 1 hour classes, and people can come and they can learn how to make green smoothies and putting in the raw vegetables. But I do also have a YouTube class. So if you Google my name, which is Nadia Brydon, and you just put in YouTube and green smoothies and juices, you will get up my class. And I've got a sort of 3-minute demo of how to make a smoothie, and I've got an hour-long explanation of how to do it. So you don't have to come to my classes in Fulham Broadway, but you get to taste them, which is quite nice, and then you can see what they're like. But so yes, a green smoothie. I recommend having, not going out and buying an expensive blender, but it is important the type of blender you have, because not all blenders blend to a creamy smoothie texture, and that is actually the key of a smoothie. Because a lot of blenders, even quite expensive blenders, don't blend smoothly. They blend, they chop it up, but it's still full of bits of vegetables. You need something that is honestly like a cream. And I have found, and I'm not attached to this company, but I have found that the Philips HR 2000 range of blenders are the best and the best value. They are only about...
What sort of money would you have to pay for those?
£30 if you go to Argos. If you go to a high street store, they're going to be about £5 more expensive. You can buy one with a glass jug, or you can buy one with a plastic jug. So it's a Philips HR 2000, the range, and they've then got a / and a 50, or a / and some other number. But the key is that they must have the 5 blades with teeth on.
Right.
And most other blenders have 4 teeth. Now, the interesting thing is about this blender is that it's not a very powerful engine.
Right.
It's the key is that they've got this very clever 5 blade with teeth on it, which cuts the vegetables. And the reason why it's so important to break up the vegetables into this very fine smoothie is because every single cell of a plant is that locks in the nutrients with a sort of fibrous, a fibrous shell, exactly. And you need to break this shell in order to release the micronutrients, because I did a sort of, in my practice, I've tried having people eat the same amount on a plate and chewing their way through a salad of my green vegetables, and the same with people doing smoothies, and I find that it does not have the same effect. And I think it's because we do not chew our food enough, and we don't break down the hard fibrous cell, because we've got soluble fibre in our vegetables and insoluble fibre. The soluble fibre we're able to digest, but the insoluble fibre we're not able to digest. So that's why mechanically breaking down the cellular structure of the plant very finely is really important. Now, you can go and buy a £500 Vitamix blender.
But, I mean, if you were a mother or father and you wanted to get green smoothies into your children every day, you'd really want a fairly powerful one, wouldn't you? So
no, you don't need the power.
You don't need the power.
You don't need the power, because the Philips HR...
Well, if you were using it every day, I mean, would you wear out a cheap one?
No. Do you know what? I have been using my Philips. I demo with my Philips. I mean, I do have a Vitamix, which is £500, but who's got £500? I mean, if you've got £500, fabulous.
Right.
There are other blenders. There's the Omni Blend, which is about £250.
But you're soon going to save £500 chocolate, aren't you?
Well,
oh, coffee.
That's true. But I still say to people
family.
that the Philips HR 2000 range is really excellent. The only thing is that when you blend, you must put in the water first, and you must blend each vegetable individually. In other words, you must put in, for instance, the cucumber, then blend it. Just a quick blend to chop it up. Then you put in the spinach, quick blend, chop it up. You put in the rocket, quick blend, and so that it's blended. So rather than putting all the vegetables in and then blending it, because that means that the blade is
so much work,
doing too much work, and you will then definitely burn out the engine.
Right.
So you need to put in so shall I tell you how to do my smoothie?
Please, go on.
Bet you've all been waiting.
Or will you have to kill me after this?
Why?
Well, you've given your secret out.
Okay, well, my recipe, I mean, I do lots of different recipes, but I think the recipe that most people sort of like to start off with is 300 mils of water. Then you put in 80 grams of cucumber. Now, 80 grams of anything is considered to be one portion.
Right.
In our 5 a day, we're supposed to have, they say a handful, but the actual measurement is 80 grams is one portion, and 40 grams is half a portion. So what we're putting into my smoothie, we're putting in 3 portions of raw green vegetables, of which 1.5 portions are dark leafy greens. So we're putting in 300 mils of water first. You put in 80 grams of chopped cucumber, but then you just give it a quick whiz and just to break it up a bit. Then you put in 40 grams of celery, and you give that a quick whiz. Now, the dark leafy greens in this particular recipe are 80 grams of spinach, and you can buy a packet of spinach with washed spinach, and you can buy it, actually, I think it's 100 gram packet, so you can wash it if you want. I tend to
Or you can have your spinach in a small place in the garden, can't you? An everlasting one.
I mean, the best way is to grow your own, which is in fact I have an allotment, and I'm very blessed to have an allotment, so I can just go and pick my organic spinach. So you put 80 grams of spinach and 40 grams of rocket, and then I put 20 grams of avocado, which tastes quite nice. But the thing is, I then put a tablespoonful of your linseed oil. Oh. So the linseed farm, 1 tablespoonful.
Do you mean a dessert spoonful? How many mils?
Oh, I say tablespoonful, which is 15 mils.
15, right, okay.
Because 1 teaspoon is 5 mils, and you have 3 teaspoons to a tablespoon. Now, obviously, if it's for children, you're going to give it like a teaspoon each. But the thing is, we're making 600 mils here, and therefore...
Is that for one person or for several?
That's 2 portions.
2 portions.
But that should be what you have per day. But the thing is, we haven't finished with the ingredients yet. Then I have another secret ingredient.
Right.
So my number 1 secret ingredient is linseed oil, and my other number 1 secret ingredient is chlorella. Have you heard of chlorella?
Well, I know that you have something to do with it, and I see you working on a store with all this chlorella stuff.
Well,
tell us about chlorella.
Well, I've been actually working as a consultant for a company called Sun Chlorella, which is a green algae. Now, green algae, lots of people have heard of spirulina, but not everybody's heard of chlorella.
Is also green algae from the sea, or is it made
fresh water?
So freshwater,
it's a single-celled freshwater green algae. So it's green, and therefore in fact, chlorella has the highest chlorophyll of any plant on the planet. And the reason why chlorophyll is so important is because, first of all, every molecule of chlorophyll contains a molecule of magnesium. And magnesium is nature's tranquilizer. It's nature's Valium. And if we do not eat enough green chlorophyll raw in our daily diet, in the form of, for instance, chlorella and green vegetables, we're not really getting enough magnesium. And that's why an awful lot of people get so stressed. We have stress, but we can't avoid stress. But it's how we manage stress, how we cope with stress. And we can learn to meditate, we do yoga, we can go do exercise. But we also have to be putting a lot of magnesium in our diet. And this is one of the keys of my green smoothies and put in the green vegetables, because we're told, by the government that we should be having 5 portions of raw green
And we
vegetables.
know they're right about everything, don't we?
Absolutely. Well, we're told we're supposed to have 5 portions of fruit and vegetables, but the thing is, we're not told we should be having raw vegetables. So therefore, people often eat fruit, and fruit is often not got a lot of the minerals that we need from the vegetables.
And
but
they drink juice, don't they? They think, if I have 2 glasses of juice, that's like 2 portions of fruit. But of course, you're not getting all the fibre and things.
You're not getting the fibre, and that is another key that we need to be eating it for. But we're not getting a lot of the vitamins and minerals. But mostly people cook their vegetables, and so when you cook vegetables above body temperature, you're actually killing off the digestive enzymes, the enzymes that help us to digest the food. But let's go back to my recipe. So what I do is I suggest that people put in the chlorella, which is a green algae, and as I said, I work for Sun Chlorella, which is a wonderful company, and what they do is they grow the chlorella themselves in Taiwan from mountain aquifers, which is mineral water. So they grow it out in the direct sunshine. So because a lot of chlorellas are actually grown in polytunnels, so that it doesn't get the sort of full rays of the sun, and it's not necessarily grown with pure water. And it might be tap water or whatever, but sun chlorella actually doesn't put any chemicals in the water. And the other amazing thing about sun chlorella is that in order, as I explained earlier, you need to make sure that you break cell walls from vegetables, from greens, to be able to get out the micronutrients to the best that you can. And Sun Chlorella has invented and patented a very special machine that doesn't heat the chlorella, and it doesn't put any chemicals into the chlorella, but it pulverizes the chlorella by putting it under pressure, and it bursts the cell walls. So you're getting the full nutrition because you're not heating it, there's no chemicals in it, and they have done some research to show that you are actually absorbing 60% of the micronutrients in the first hour when you take it, which I think is actually very, very interesting.
And there's such a lot of concern with a lot of vitamins, sort of cheap vitamins and minerals that you might see in a store. Are we absorbing them well enough, do you think?
No, I mean, there's you hear of stories of how the vitamin pills
and the powers that be keep on telling us, it's no good, these are no good for you, aren't they?
Yeah, well, no, I know exactly. You hear stories of vitamins, people taking vitamins in a capsule or tablet, and the tablet and the capsules come out undigested. So
how do the Sun Chlorella, if you were putting it in the smoothie, does it come in a powder or?
You can buy it in granule form, or you can buy it in tablets, and because it's only compressed, it is actually compressed with a little bit of fat, and that because it's very important when we eat any vegetables that have got the vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those are the fat-soluble vitamins. We must be eating a bit of fat in order to be able to bind to the fat-soluble vitamins in order to digest them, which is why having linseed oil is so important every day, because it helps to bind to the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, and we know how important it is to absorb the vitamin D. Now, Sun Chlorella has a 2.5% of soya lecithin, which is the fat from non-GMO soya, and so that helps to absorb. It helps to compress the tablets, but it also helps to absorb all those fat-soluble vitamins. So the vitamin A is absolutely vital for our immune system. Vitamin D, as we all know, is extraordinary and totally essential, especially being in the UK in the winter. We're not making enough vitamin D in our bodies. Vitamin E is extremely important for reducing our allergies and for the immune system, and vitamin K is absolutely vital for our bones, and it's for the clotting factor. But it's actually the vegetable form, so it's beta carotene is the vitamin A, it's vitamin D2 as opposed to the vitamin D3, which is really important. We have it in the plant form, and again the vitamin E and the vitamin K1 as opposed to vitamin K2. But you see, it's really important. The chlorella also contains a lot of iron, a lot of the B12 which is, for vegetarians, is really important, and it's a very good source of B12. The methylcobalamin, which is the active form, which is the form that our body can utilise and make into vitamin B12. So anyway, to go back to the recipe.
Well, what about saying? I mean, where can we get chlorella?
Oh,
do we need to come to you
yes,
to get chlorella,
no,
or what?
You can buy it online. You can
Sun chlorella.
Google sun chlorella.
You need to look for.
And you can, and I really recommend the sun chlorella brand, because there's this unique pulverizing process. So it's got the most micronutrients. Because if you don't know how
things
chlorella,
are made,
how it's been dried, has it been heated, if it's been heated, you're going to lose a lot of the micronutrients. If it's had chemicals in it, how it's been grown, and because also sun chlorella is grown in Taiwan, therefore it's well away from Fukushima, so you don't, if you buy other chlorellas, you don't know if it's been grown in Japan or anywhere near Fukushima. But I think that, it is always tested. All chlorellas are tested to make sure that there is no radiation.
I'm sure that's right. Yeah.
There is a lot of concern at the moment about chlorellas because a lot of them do come from Japan.
Well, I think wherever we are, I mean, goodness me, when the Chernobyl happened, we had rain in Wales, and I think it's only just a few years ago that they can now start eating their sheep again.
I know.
It's just ridiculous.
It is. Yeah. But you see, this is the great thing about greens as well, and chlorella. It shows it is the thing that protects us or helps to protect us against radiation damage, because green chlorella has been shown particularly to reduce the amount of radiation, and it helps to protect us against radiation.
Because we've got that everywhere
metals.
Now, haven't we?
Absolutely. And you see, the chlorophyll binds to toxins. It binds to pesticides. It binds to all sorts of toxins. And the interesting thing is that I think a lot of people don't really know this, is that fibre in vegetables binds to the estrogens in the environment that we don't want, the metalloestrogens and the xenoestrogens, which are the toxic estrogens in the environment, and it binds to the estrogens and it takes it out of the body. Now, sorry, breaking that, you talked about these estrogens that we don't want. What, are they in food that we eat as a normal course of events? Yes, they are.
And what kind of things would they be in?
Most vegetables, most foods, all foods actually, have estrogens in. Like meat has got natural estrogens because it's a hormone, it's a fat soluble hormone. So you've got meat, which has got estrogens. Milk has got estrogens. Eggs have got estrogens in them.
And our linseed meal has estrogens.
And the linseed has phytoestrogens. But the interesting thing is that you see, the chemical estrogen is a big family of chemicals, and the estrogens in our body are very large molecules, and the estrogens, the metalloestrogens, like heavy metals, also mimic estrogens. They bind to the estrogen receptors in our bodies, and so they're very bad from that point of view. They're stored in fat,
and that stops the good ones being able to.
And that's exactly it, because phytoestrogens are thousands of times smaller than the estrogens in meat and the estrogens in the environment, the toxic estrogens, and also the estrogens in our body. And phytoestrogens are thousands of times smaller, and so they are the healthy estrogens, and they can bind onto the receptor sites and block the unhealthy estrogens from actually getting into the body.
So what about if we've got a lot of unhealthy ones there in the first place and they've choked up all the receptors? Does that happen?
Yes, well, because I work for Breast Cancer Haven, and a lot of hormone-driven cancers, like breast cancer or ovarian cancer, are actually driven by estrogen. So that's why people have to take tamoxifen, which blocks the estrogen receptors on the tumour sites. But you see, the thing about eating raw vegetables and chlorella, which has got fibre in it, is that fibre binds to the estrogens and takes it out of the body. And so the more greens that we eat, the more fibre that we eat. Now, you could say, oh, well, I have lots of breakfast cereals, and it's not the same. You've got to have it in a fresh plant to have the biggest benefit. So all fibre is not fibre. Well, good fibre anyway. Fibre is really important, but I think that if you're putting in a lot of grain type of fibre, bran type of fibre, it's quite abrasive on the gut. And I think particularly a lot of people with IBS, for instance, can't
And you see so many younger people with
fibre
this now, don't
on
you?
that kind of level. And, I think it's also shown that everybody's eating cereals for their breakfast, but the more cereals people seem to eat, the iller we all seem to be. And what it is we really need to be eating more green vegetables. So, but again, I'm saying to people, don't worry about the diet that you're having. Don't worry about...
Just add this in.
Just add in the green vegetables. Let me carry on about the recipe.
All right, go on.
So let's recap on what we've put into the blender. We've put in 80 grams of spinach. We've put in 80 grams of cucumber. No, wait a minute. So 80 grams of cucumber, 80 grams of spinach, 40 grams of rocket, and 40 grams of celery, and 20 grams of avocado. We also have put in between a teaspoon and a tablespoon of linseed, depending on what you want. I mean, you can try it with... I put a great big tablespoon this morning. I put in 15 tablets of chlorella, but you start off with 5 tablets and then you build up every 3 days another 5 tablets until you're taking 15 tablets in the chlorella, because that's equivalent to 3 grams of chlorella, which is a teaspoon. And people say, oh gosh, that sounds an awful lot, but it's the same as you wouldn't eat 1 leaf of spinach, you'd eat 80
Exactly.
grams of spinach, and
Yes.
it's the same as chlorella is like, if you like, a dried spinach. It's all it is, it's a dried vegetable. So and when it's dried, it's had the water taken out, so we need to have a bit more. So 15 tablets is what we call the maintenance dose.
It's just so it's easy, isn't it? I mean, you can't go out and buy green chlorella, so they've put it all in this thing and make it easy for you to have on your
the thing
shelf.
is, if you don't have to put it in your smoothie. You can actually take it with water. You can chew it. You can have them through the day. But because it's a food, you need to have it with food. So if you're not having a smoothie for breakfast, you can just take the chlorella with your breakfast with some water. Or you can take the granules and sprinkle it on your salads, or you can sprinkle it in on your soups, but you mustn't cook it, because, as I said, when you start cooking it, it reduces the amount of micronutrients. But go back to the recipe. Then I suggest putting a little bit of Himalayan salt in, like maybe a quarter of a teaspoonful, because
Yes, I love that. It's lovely and pink,
it's
isn't it?
lovely and pink, and it's got 81 minerals in it, whereas table salt only has 2. It's got sodium and chloride, and it might have some iodine added to it, and you actually need to have the iodine from sea vegetables, really, not, and then it's in a more natural form. But so a quarter of a teaspoonful of the Himalayan salt, or rock salt or sea salt, but it needs to be a natural salt. And then I put in 2 teaspoonfuls of lemon juice and half a clove of garlic, or a clove of garlic, depending on how much garlic you want. But I think the garlic is very useful because it's very good for the heart, it's very good for the immune system.
And it has sulfur compounds in it too.
Sulfur compounds, yeah. But it's extremely important. Now, if you have half a clove, it doesn't actually, you don't smell, because the green...
That's useful to know.
I know, well, I know it is actually, because, working at the Haven, obviously people don't want me breathing garlic, because it's not very pleasant if somebody hasn't had garlic. And so if you have half a clove, you get the benefit, but also the greens deodorize it. So all the greens in the chlorella deodorize, because the chlorophyll is a deodorizer. And in fact, animals absolutely love chlorella. And because it's a deodorizer, it really helps their gut. But they love it better than, dog chocks. Because I don't know, I think animals know what's good for them.
Well, all of our cows, of course, with lots of their stomachs, they're chewing their green stuff up several times. They're chewing the cud, I think about 30 chews on each bit, so they eat it, and then they're blending it.
They're blending it, you see, in their stomachs, and you can...
Cows are the ideal liquidizer.
Yeah, basically a cow's stomach is a blender, isn't it?
Yes.
So, because people say, oh, I can't, cows eat all the greens and things, and I can't possibly. It's because the stomach is just blending is the greens and chopping it up so that it's reducing the fibre.
So if we could GM modify us, we could put some cow genes in us and get different kind of stomachs. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, I don't know that I like the idea of being a GM.
Sorry, that's a bit of idiocy. It does creep in occasionally.
Yeah.
Have we done the recipe now?
So shall I recap on it?
No, we've already recapped twice.
It.
But people can go onto YouTube and see you talking about it.
They can see you talking about it. They can either listen to a 3-minute YouTube smoothie recipe, which is not exactly the one that I've described now, but it gives you the idea, and or they can look at the hour-long one that I've got, which is explains all about the different juices and blenders and smoothies and juices and things like that, and the benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talked about working at the Haven with breast cancer patients. Yes. I spoke to Yvette Jordan a little while ago, who's a lymphedema nurse or specialist.
Yes.
And she. We were talking about the lymph system and how important that was.
Yes.
And she gets to work with cancer patients, obviously, afterwards.
Yes.
And she said 100% of the time, you can see what's happening. Whatever's happened to these people in the past, it's an indicator for breast cancer to come in. It's all the same. All of the people that have that breast cancer, their past medical history is just leading up to it. And she's always saying, wouldn't it be so much better to have prevention? And that's knowing how to look after your lymph system.
I mean, there are so many reasons for all cancers, not just breast cancer, but all cancers.
Yeah.
And but I mean, it is important to look after our lymph system, yes. But I can't say that that's the reason for breast cancer.
No, it's not. But I think what she was saying is when she works with them afterwards, and often a consultant or they will have operated on, they say, we've taken out a few lymph nodes, which of course that's where it's been attacked. But you don't need your lymph system interfered with at all in order for it to do its job properly. And I think the idea is if from day one, like she talks about. The breasts and young girls don't know about how to look after themselves or massage themselves, and of course if you're overweight your tummy is resting on your lymph nodes in the groin area and it's not working properly. And all of those things are kind of precursors and can lead to that, and you can see that in the past history. And wouldn't it have been nice if...
I think it's really important that we do keep our lymphatic system healthy, and I think people don't realise quite how important the lymphatic system is, because having a bra that's too tight, for instance, as an example, will reduce the lymphatic flow around the body.
It's like the underwired things are not so helpful.
Not such a good idea. But also, a lot of these antiperspirant deodorants reduce the ability of the body to sweat properly.
Didn't some of them have aluminium in them or something?
And they used to have aluminium in. I'm not sure if they do now, but there are lots of alternatives to very highly chemical deodorants. I mean, for instance, you can use rose water is one of the classics. You can also buy a salt stick, which is very, very good. I can't remember what they're called, but you can buy those from health food shops. But you can buy lots of very healthy type of deodorants.
And even if you've got a really bad sweaty problem, for instance, Botox is used. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
No.
I would imagine it because it blocks everything off, blocks the flow. Yeah. But I think it is important that we go out and we exercise and we breathe the air, and moving gets the lymphatic flow going. It's quite important to do things like skin brushing as well. Which
That's
is,
right. That's one of the things she says.
Brushing with a natural brush towards the heart, from the fingertips towards the heart, from the toes up towards the heart, and but with a soft brush or a dry cloth. It's dry skin brushing, and also things like bouncers, doing bouncing and on little trampolines, and just walking. Just walking in nature is really, really important for the lymphatic system.
So you're in the Haven. What happens?
And drinking lots of water, by the way.
Drinking lots of water.
People do not drink enough water. But yes, I mean, I've worked for the Haven for now 13 years, I think, And it's an absolutely amazing charity. We offer free support to women who, and to men actually as well. It's not just women who get breast cancer, who are affected by breast cancer. And we also support the families as well. And we offer 10 hours of free one-to-one therapies to anybody affected by or who's been diagnosed with breast cancer. And we also offer counselling to the families of people who've been affected by breast cancer in their family. We have a lot of cookery classes, we have seminars and workshops, information, counselling. We've got 3 centres. We've got one in Leeds, one in Hereford and one in Fulham Broadway, and we are massively fundraising. Prince Charles is our patron, and we're very proud to have him as our patron. He's very active and supportive, and the Countess of Wessex is also involved, so we're very honoured to have that kind of support. Yeah,
Brilliant.
so we've also got a DVD that if people can't get to a haven, they can ring in and we'll send them a 2.5-hour DVD that they can watch all the things that we recommend, to help support them, sort of like mindful meditation, how to do that.
So are you finding that consultants, oncology consultants, actually refer people to you now, or is it maybe more nurses,
It's everybody. The oncologists are very supportive. Marsden is very supportive of us, and we get breast care nurses from all over.
Well, that's becoming a bit of a breakthrough, isn't it? There's now an integrated oncology society in this country. Did you know that? An integrated, oncology society. So I had heard it. Yes. So the idea is that if you have cancer and it's diagnosed, then we're hoping that oncologists may look in a more holistic way at you, and if you've got a short time to live, maybe you might need to think, well, do I want to go down the chemotherapy route? What kind of quality of life do I want to have? I think it's going to be quite difficult to get them to change and say those things, but it's looking at the whole person and their quality of life and what they can do in other areas. And obviously you're giving people information at the haven of how to look after themselves and protect themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that first of all, the shock for not just the person with breast cancer, but the whole family of being diagnosed.
And they don't know what to do. I mean, their brain's gone to jelly. Yes. Where do they go for information? And sometimes I'm afraid that the health service is not necessarily the one that gives you the best information.
There are a lot of charities as well that are available for information. Yes.
But obviously you don't want to have, there's probably lots of charlatans on the internet now, as there used to be in the old days before the 1939 Cancer Act. Yeah. Yes. But there are people with good information and good that can help you in
absolutely.
a good way.
I mean, breast cancer care as well is an excellent charity. But to phone Breast Cancer Haven, and we'll help support people whether they're able to come to the haven, or we can do it over the phone. We can send them, an information pack of what's available. But it is very useful, particularly I think when people are going through their treatments, they need a lot of support, and the hospitals aren't able to give that. So we can help support them, help to support their side effects, but also emotionally. But also what is very interesting, and people don't realise, is that when they've finished all their treatment, I think the hospitals very much expect them to go back and pick up their life where they left off, and most people really can't do that. They need a little bit of support to rebuild their lives, because also I think there's the aspect that they're now no longer receiving treatment, and fear sets in. Oh my goodness, I'm going to get a recurrence. So we can help people through that process to feel that they can trust their bodies, and that there are certain things that they can do, and the treatment will have been effective, and so to help support people integrate back into their lives again.
Brilliant. Well, Nadia, we didn't start the clock here, but I think the time must have flashed by during our talk, and we've covered such a vast area, haven't we?
Actually, haven't we?
I mean, you are just amazing. So you've learnt all these things, and you've actually moved a step on, really. You've just dug deeper into some aspects, haven't you, to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I sort of specialise now in terms of my own practice, my private practice, in just teaching people how to really add in more green vegetables into their normal diet without having to change anything, and to encourage people that they do need to be eating at least 5 portions of vegetables, I think, a day. And the fruit is just an add-on.
Yeah. So would you like anybody to get in touch with you? Have you a website? Or?
Well, I do have a website.
Is it updated regularly? No.
Really.
Okay. So
the thing is, if they just Google my name.
Google the name.
And you
That's
can get
NADIA BRYDON.
Yes, and they can email me. Shall I give my
Yes,
email address?
please do.
Is that the way to do it? It's Nadia, NADIA, at Chanters, like monks chanting, CHANTERS, F for Freddy, S for sugar, N for November, E for Edward, T for Thomas, which is fsnet.co.uk. So that's Nadia at chanters.fsnet.co.uk. It's a little complicated.
Brilliant. Okay.
Email address, but there you go.
Right. Well, if anybody can't get that, they can get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with Nadia.
Yeah, and I will answer emails when people.
She will answer emails.
Yes,
Brilliant.
I will.
Nadia, thank you very, very much. It's been a delight to talk to you, and I think we've probably got at least another 2 interviews, without a doubt.
Thank you, Durwin, very much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. It really has. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia.